Joe, welcome to the Razor's Edge.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So obviously I want to talk about your upcoming show at ManorFest, but before we get to that, you had a strong 2021. Your album Serpent and Spirit was one of the best albums of last year. So what's the response to that album been like from your perspective?
For the people who have heard it so far, it's been amazing. I still think there should have, could have been more reach. It's hard. For a band that still works full time, it's hard how many tours we can get on, and festival season starting now. So we've kind of not really done many tours, which aiming for festivals, be it in the UK, be it around Europe, and trying to hit as many places as possible. That kind of are good for us, And so instead of wasting 40 days holiday touring around Germany, like we're going in and playing like a big festival and then moving on. So the response has been good, but more people, there's still more people that need to hear about the album. And I feel like we've probably learned a few lessons along the way of things that we could maybe do, like pushing forward. But yeah, like I'm pretty happy with how it's gone down. As our debut record, the reviews were amazing, and got in the Metal Hammer top 20 albums a year, beating some amazing bands, and having guys in bands that we admire reaching out, be it guys from Trivium, Killswitch Engage, Gojira. It was really nice to see certainly bands that are big bands that we look up to. So it's been good.
Excellent. So I think we chatted to you last at Bloodstock last year, and that was a huge show for you guys. So it helps you gets you out into that public consciousness, I guess.
Yeah, totally. And Bloodstock was fantastic. It's our first major festival as this band, and it was something that we got offered quite early on because Simon at Bloodstock happened to kind of like us, but I sent him something a bit early from the album and he loved it. So Bloodstock was amazing, and they gave us a really good slot for the size of the band at the time. I think we was on at maybe 3 o'clock on what was considered that day's main stage, because the actual main stage wasn't open, so it was on the biggest stage of that day. They gave us a push. And again, before this album, no one knew, no one gave a shit, and so we put this album out. And bear in mind, it's still very early days. We lost 18 months due to COVID, so it's hard to tell. Like this band's been around a little bit longer, but there's 18 months you could easily pull out from that are like dead months. And playing Bloodstock and turning up and having a large crowd larger than I expected. There's a few things, obviously, on stage sound started kind of going a bit mad, and it's one of them, you kind of get a half an hour changeover, and before you know it, something goes wrong, and all of a sudden that half an hour changeover turns into 5 minutes. And we've learned a lot from that. We've learned, a few mixing notes, certainly for on stage. If you're not getting the same sounds off stage as we're getting on stage, but the better sound is for you, not on stage. Like the better things, kind of the show goes for you. But yeah, it was it got us out in front of a lot of people, and the response, and that's our audience, things like ManorFest audience and Bloodstock audience. That is we're a heavy metal band. Three guys who've been doing metal bands since they were 10. We never did any sort of different sort of genres. It was always in the heavy frame, be it prog, be it like kind of like black metal, be it what have you. But it's always been in the extreme, the heavy metal sort of frame. And to go to that, to see what our kind of target audience is, and to walk away going, oh, we actually do have a fan base that's building, was really nice. And it's just guys and girls who just kind of grew up loving the classic stuff that we did. And that's something that we've kind of got from a lot of people, and we certainly found that at Bloodstock, how many people were coming up talking to us. And it's weird, it's we're just three normal lads, but having people come up and your album's this and that, and it made me feel like this, and you sort of chuckle, but it's a lovely feeling. But so yeah, things like that get us out in front of so many more people, and
yeah,
hopefully by mainly doing festivals this year, it's going to kind of benefit us, hopefully, in the long run.
yeah. I suppose that you've got a giant audience at a festival compared to a few hundred at a club show where you're supporting someone else.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I think I caught you on the Orange Goblin tour at the end of last year as well. You've just been out with Devil Sold His Soul. How were those tours?
Orange Goblin was such a weird one because it come out of the first 3 shows. It was during the whole Omicron thing. First 3 shows were like amazing, and I think we had a day off maybe after Manchester, and then the Omicron thing hit. That day, all of a sudden, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
And then the next show, there was like such a drop off.
Yeah.
And it kind of carried on. It went from Southampton, Manchester, and wherever. The one after that was fantastic. And like I say, from Birmingham, and it felt like I was on 2 different tours. It was fucking weird. And going down to the end, I think we all just like, it was so odd. And coming down to London, 2 sold out shows, 1 sold out and 1 like 95% sold out, and we got the COVID, so we missed the last show. But the London show, when you think, fucking hell, there's meant to be 650 people in here tonight, it was 100 maybe when we went on stage. And I guess we were on early. There's the classic club night afterwards, but the next night I understand it was even less. And it was so gutting because it was going great, and it was our first time out touring as Urne. And then Devil Sold His Soul was fucking great. Certainly we were main support as well for that, so we had the added advantage of an extra 45 minutes of door time being open, and then we had a weird one in Scotland. We had like the worst sound guy going. And the amount of time I'm looking over at him, and I'm like, he was a very bizarre one. That's all I say. And it doesn't help when someone's looking at their phone, and you're like trying to tell them like there's this not coming. And but the last 2 shows, Manchester and London being hometown, it was like it was there's a few times in our brief history where we go, "God, they felt a difference." And the last 2 shows, I felt like there was a difference. And I've got to say, like Devil Sold His Soul with certainly different types of music, as we are to Orange Goblin, one of the best bands I've ever toured with in how they are as people and how professional they were. And it was a real honor to be out of a band who'd been doing it for 20 years or whatever. And they're also young guys, they're young geezers, but it was really, really enjoyable. And we weren't too sure. I've known some of the guys for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And the other lads weren't too sure just because of the difference in music. But we absolutely loved it. And we was all gutted for it to end. It was only 5 shows. And I think we all kind of felt like it just felt as we're getting started, as the kind of chemistry between bands is building up. And like, it's just a shame that it came to an end. And I saw one of them last week at a gig, and I was like, I happily could have gone and done another five of those shows.
Yeah.
And I think we all felt it. So yeah, it's been fantastic.
Excellent. So with all the positive press you got off the back of Serpent and Spirit, and then these shows, these tours, the Bloodstock Festival last year, are you seeing a big growth in your fan base now?
In certain areas, I think obviously once we do some shows and do like be at a festival, so there's a little spike. But I always kind of had this kind of thing in my mind. I need to realise that because Facebook, Instagram followers aren't shooting up 100 a day, doesn't mean that stuff's not happening. And like we've got some orders coming overnight from the States and what have you. So we have to stay grounded, and things are picking up and they're getting there, and we can sort of tell that by what we're getting asked to play, and what we're getting asked to do. And like I say, back in the day, I would have been like, why aren't we at 5,000 followers or whatnot? And it doesn't really count for stuff. And, it would be nice, but then we'll sit there and we get a message from Joe from Gajira.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if Joe from Gajira, who's in the metal band, the band, is reaching out and contacting our band, and if Matt Heathy or Jesse from Killswitch are doing it, something's happening.
Yeah.
If these big guys are hearing about our little English band, something's obviously growing. But there's still room for improvement. We're still trying to build up a team around us. Yeah, we've got fantastic booking agent, got solid label, solid PR, and there's a few things we need to add to it which will help us grow. It's still very organic, and we still handle a lot of it ourselves, but we are seeing growth. But it will grow even more when we start playing shows and festivals more regular.
Yeah. So you mentioned that Joe from Gajira and Matt Heathy and people are reaching out to you. What are they saying to you when they reach out and talk to you?
Well, like the Matt Heathy was just like, it sounds like this meets this, and Matt Heathy's got a knowledge of metal that's pretty on there, and like loves parts of this, and he points out bits and bobs he likes. Jesse's are like it's like, I guess it's deemed a dirty word, but the metalcore thing. But before like 2004, it was before it got all silly. During the 90s, bands like Aftershock and flipping the original Shadows Fall, where the songs were like epic and what have you. He was like, it reminds me of like the best of metalcore meets the best of like prog and the best of this and that. And he was just like, it's really epic and what have you. And again, most people will be like, oh, metalcore, because it's become this horrific thing. Whereas in the 90s to 2002, 2003, it was exciting. And that's a big one. And then Joe from Gajira, just, the sort of hints we've got from them is it's made him, the metal that he grew up on.
Yeah.
The band he grew up on, like loving them, the Seps, the Metallica, Megadeths, and Death. And I think that is kind of giving him that kind of excitement, and as well as Jean-Michel in the band. And Ben from Whitechapel, again, people like we don't know, he's just like, he sent us some really nice things about like the feeling he gets from listening to our record. And yeah, again, another massive band. And he was like, oh, it'd be great if we could tour one day or something. And I was like, you're in a big band, mate. Like, let us know. You know what I mean? And yeah, he seems to be really into it. And it's nice. It's nice to see, and it gives you that confidence boost sometimes when you're kind of not sure if you're any good. And then having people reach out and go, yeah. And there's been a few other people, but those guys to me are like, especially the Gajira thing, it's ridiculous. That's the band. And it picks you up. It makes you feel like, wow, you are good, and this is worthwhile. And we need to still like work away at it, and the next album needs to be better. And we'll see what happens.
Excellent. So we are a week away from ManorFest. First British outdoor festival of the summer. You looking forward to it? I'm really looking forward to ManorFest. It like cracks us up that we've been put on the main stage that day, and I was like, oh, we'll be opening. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, come on. But we're not even opening, and I know it doesn't matter. It's just nice to be a part of things like that. But the guys there have sort of trusted us, and they're like really backing the band. And then I see that we're on with like, afterwards is Moonspell, Overkill and Accept. And Overkill, when we were doing signed versions of the album, and I'm sort of thinking there's only going to be 5 like orders, and little did we know there was a lot. So we spent all day, but we watched Overkill live in Overhausen in Germany, and we all just sat there in awe watching this Blu-ray of this amazing legacy band, and we were signing our copies, and then a month later we get this offer, and I couldn't be more chuffed to be playing that. I couldn't be more proud to be considered to be playing that. It's a real buzz, and like we're lucky, we're playing some fantastic festivals this summer, and I think just 4 days later we're playing like a main stage in Poland with Carcass and Tom G Warrior and all this, and then our little band who I'm sure no one will care about. Like, it's not like we've made a mark in Poland,
You know, I'm having to like scrub up on my Polish, but to be asked to do those sort of things, but the fact that like ManorFest have really kind of backed us and trusted us and put us on this special day with these legacy bands and bands that, you know, you can only look up to and hope to one day achieve anything of what they've done, and for us to be put on there at whatever it's going to be, 6 o'clock in the evening. Hopefully the sun calms down, because as a person who's got the old classic ginger hair, I'll be just at the end of the thing, just be a bit of water and a bit of ginger fluff, because I've just disappeared. So fingers crossed the heat doesn't kill me.
So you
sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned those legacy bands, and obviously you talked about watching the Overkill DVD. So how much of an influence did bands like that you are now sharing the stage with play in your career?
Certainly, like, it's weird because, like, so our guitarist is more from like a kind of classic sort of bit, classic rock or classic metal sort of background. My drummer's like our drummer is like an encyclopedia of metal. Like the stuff that he brings, because we all write for the band, and the stuff that he brings is always like, he's just got it. And me and him are like more into that.
Yeah.
So it's weird because obviously we don't sound like Accept, don't sound like Overkill, but we look, I mean, the amount of times we spoke about DD's bass tone, it's just this lovely, this ripping bass tone that's always cut through, and he writes most of Overkill stuff, and for a bass player, it's been inspiring. And Bobby Blitz, the stage show, the performance, the voice still sounds, if like you could put heavy metal, thrash metal into a jar and be like 100 years from now, open this up, and that's what heavy metal sounds like. He'd be in there.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have people like Lemmy, of course, and then on the other side of it, you'll have people like Dio and whatnot. But he's got this stunning, just this great voice, and they're just such a professional band, and like they're so consistently great. And I know they're not the biggest band, you know. I know they're not considered in the big four, and then even at maybe behind that, then you've got your bands like Testament, Exodus, Creator. Maybe they're not even in that lot, but they've always stuck at it. And that's something I massively respect. Even when the 90s, when the chips were down and they still plugged away at it, that's something I kind of look to things like that. I look to how normal and humble bands like Gojira are, but then you look to some bands that always worked away at it. And I just respect and honor. And obviously Accept had their time, then they went away, then they did a reunion, and they've pretty much got a whole new lineup now. I think they've got 6 members now, and I think one of them's only one from the start. But it's just a great band who's done some great comeback records, and to be in and amongst them, I know what we're like. You're always trying to learn. When you're in a band, like, you should always, be it a tour, be it a festival or what have you, you should always be trying to learn. And I know what we like, and you know, it's once we've played, I'm gonna go have a shower, whatnot, grab a beer, and I'm gonna watch what they're doing, be it on stage, be it off stage, what the technicians are doing, what have you, and just trying to learn constantly. Because if I don't think I can take anything from them, I'm definitely in the wrong business, and or trying to be in, you know, the business that I want to be in. I don't deserve to be in it, because I'm not watching what these guys who have been at it for 40 years are doing. So it's constant learning. So that's one thing I really want to take from this, the fact that once we can play, and it'd be great and whatnot, and like I say, but get to there and just watch how everything goes on. And it's not often that we get to play with bands like that, and so it's going to be it's a big one for us.
It is, yeah. So for people who've not seen you before, or maybe haven't checked out Serpent and Spirit yet, what can they expect from the Urne show at ManorFest?
Do you know what? There's not going to be any fireworks or any flipping stuff kicking off. Like, we're not at that stage yet. But we're getting better, and we're getting tighter, we're getting more comfortable with people, with people in the audience, like large people watching us, you know, like a large crowd, I mean, watching us, and getting more comfortable with that. And but we're getting more comfortable with each other as musicians and what have you. And I think going off of our last show, we're just improving, and I just hope people will hear, will give us their time, give us their ears, and just appreciate our version of metal. Like again, none of us are going to be running around like flipping Mo Farah on stage. I ain't got the stamina anymore, and we're all pretty injured as well. So there's not too much I can do. But I just hope I think they're going to see a really good, promising young metal band, and not young as in how old I am, but how old the band is. And I think a band that, you know, have a chance. And, you know, there's a lot of bands coming through and whatnot, but I want, you know, you always want your band to be the band that people like remember. But I think ManorFest that day certainly has like the demographic of what I can imagine the people being there are going to be the audience that will like our music, that grew up with Accept, that grew up with Overkill, grew up with the bands that we're inspired by, and that I was inspired by as a kid. And I think once they hear it in the music, and because it's not nonsense, because we're not trying to, oh, well, I want to be in a metal band, so I'm going to pretend to write a version of metal. No, it's been a music that I listened to since I can remember, and it's an honest music. And I think people, when they hear it, I think they'll be attached to it, I hope. And we know there's a good percentage of people who have messaged us, commented, or what have you, tagged us, you know, coming to see us that day. And I just hope they enjoy what we do and give our 8-minute epic metal songs the time of day.
Yeah. So are you going to stay on site the whole weekend at ManorFest, or are you just there on the Friday?
Do you know what the killer is? I really want to. Our guitarist has to go to a wedding Saturday morning in Cornwall.
Wow.
Which is
wrong side.
Leaving afterwards, killer. And then our drummer, it's his wife's birthday the next day, and I'm like some sad bastard. I'm like, come on, does anyone want to stay? And they do, but they just can't. Yeah. So I've kind of like gone around my friends. Oh, does anyone want to like sort them out a pass, you know? And everyone's just like, no, I'm busy. And I'm like, well, fuck you all. And so with me and Rich, the drummer, we're going to stay and watch Accept, and we're going to have to drive afterwards. And I'm gutted, like, but you know, there's always the next festival, and we at the moment where we've got so many festivals and they're falling here, there, and everywhere, we're like having to pick. We wanted to pick one where we could stay a few days and take it in, because wow, like our first real year and a half of being a band, and we're playing festivals, huge festivals here, and we've had to pick. So I think we're doing Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And so we're going to stay 2 days there. We booked like a hotel, and we're going to, you know, have a nice sort of like couple of days of it. We're flying in, and you get really well treated, as I'm sure you can imagine. And so that's the festival where we've picked to have like a little bit of a jolly up. And the day after, it's the last 4 bands, I think it's Death to All, Death tribute.
Yeah.
Into Mastodon, into Merciful Fate, into Iron Maiden. So I'm obviously going to be pissed as fuck by the time Merciful Fate come on. I won't remember any of it. But yeah, I mean, so we've had to pick and choose, and that's the shame, because every festival we play, I'm like, well, I want to be there early, and I want to watch this band the day before, and I want to watch this band the day after. But it's just picking and choosing. Like ManorFest, yeah, I am gutted, but it's always next time, you know, the old saying and all that kind of tick. So
yeah. So if you were staying the weekend, who would you want to check out on the other 2 days of the festival?
Oh God, Luna's cool.
Yeah.
I think they're on the Sunday. Eternal Champion, I think. Are they playing 2 days, or was it someone else playing 2 days? Some bands playing 2 days. The Candlemass, is that a Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah.
And one band that I don't really know anything about them, but I see them pop up. I feel like they pop up on a few festivals we play, and it's just more to see because of the logo, Party Cannon. I have no idea what they sound like, and I feel like I'd be shocked either way. So, and everyone I know sort of knows, like, I always say they're like a good crack, a good laugh.
Yeah, they are.
And I just think it's. I did look at a festival poster yesterday from like 2018. It was just like whatever, fucking like Slovenia Death Fest, and it was the only time I've never seen their logo in their colours. It's just grey, and I can imagine this miserable old death metal guy. No, that's not happening. I love it. I do love it. Do you know what? I can't even remember off the top of my head who else is on it, because it's really stacked.
It is.
But what I will say is, and I'm probably going to be biased, the 1-2 of Overkill Accept is just, for me, that's and it's probably because I'm a big Overkill fan and I respect the legendary status of Accept and whatnot. But for me, like, that's just the rest of the festival. They're going to have to, like, big time, like, live up to that, because they're two of the best bands to have ever done it.
Yeah, absolutely. So post ManorFest, you've already mentioned Copenhagen. You've got another few festival dates: Brutal Assault, Alcatraz, Summer Breeze. They're huge festivals in their respective countries. So that's it's another great way that you're growing the Urne brand, if you like, especially over in Europe.
Yeah, no, totally. And we're going to countries where the name Urne probably means something. Unlike over here where it just looks like urine, killer. There's me trying to be like a bit of a culture vulture. Let's, and then Europe, they're like, and they pronounce it proper. I pronounce it so it sounds really metal. And we're like, no, it's just Urne, mate. Like, but they do pronounce it correct. But it's a bit of a tactic, kind of, to kind of improve our brand, and I think it looks good for a band of our size to be doing such iconic festivals. A band of our size and at this length, like at this stage of our journey. So it's a way we're trying to build that. But once I think our last main festival, we might have something else in September, maybe. We're waiting for maybe 1 or 2 things to be confirmed. But then it's finishing off writing for album number 2, so that's the big focus.
Yeah.
So we're constantly we're trying to improve, and we're got some meetings coming up, which is all about hopefully helping us go to that next step. And we want to try and get everything in our house in order. We want to be considered like a proper band. I'd like bands to feel about us as how I feel about watching Accept and Overkill and all these other amazing bands we're very lucky and privileged to be playing with. I'd like bands to think, well, how I felt about Torn with Devil Sold His Soul. It takes years to become that professional, that on it, and that aware. That, things like what we're doing this year, it's going to be a lot of struggle. There's a lot of flying in and flying out, but we need to do it, and we need to really plan and get our head in order to make this all happen.
Yeah. Joe, thanks for talking to us today. We're really looking forward to seeing you at ManorFest. So a week or so's time, we'll catch you in a field in somewhere in North.
Yeah, it's mad. Do you know what? It's really close now, isn't it? You'll see me probably with an umbrella on in P20 on, a factor 50 on, with bottles of cold water duct taped to my wrists because I'm about to faint. So that'll be me.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you keep up to date with future episodes by subscribing to our channels. For more information on this podcast, or for all the latest music news, reviews, interviews and more, head over to our website, www.therazorsedge.rocks.